he doesn't get promotions and pay raises for educating people. So you get promotions. What he's suggesting is you get promotions and pay raises by dishing out tickets.
That's kind of a slap in the face, in my opinion, because if that was the case, I'm going to be stuck here for a long time. I'm going to be here for a long time. I love doing these videos. I don't do these videos because I want a pat on the back. I do them so people know, so I don't have to work as hard. I can go, you know what, those videos got out to people. People understand that they have to have their life jackets on. They have to have the proper equipment. That's our goal here. It's to educate the public.
We are back. I think this is our 4th video. You're like the most popular guy at the Lake of the Ozarks.
Hey, I enjoy it.
Good and bad, by the way. And we are back to respond to more of your wonderful comments, questions, all of the things. But also, we are out here today on the Grand Glaize Arm, just inside here from the no wake zone, which is and will be massive chaos this weekend for the Lake of the Ozarks Shootout.
Yes.
So we thought we better get with a guy who's going to be policing this, because you have a different perspective on this. For most, it's mass chaos, it's mass wonderful. There's some that of course hate it, right? By the looks of the tie-up every year, and last year in particular, it's awesome.
It's growing. It's become a great event.
Yes, yes. And if you already watched this channel, you already know this. You saw my interview with Leah. You saw my interview with Craig Ampmeyer with MCon. You're seeing all of the stuff about what's going on for Shootout Week. We are right here in the midst of Shootout Week now. I thought, let's get a perspective of somebody who's watching it to watch out for your safety. So Dylan, like, what can somebody expect on Shootout Day if they've never experienced it before?
Thousands of boats, thousands of spectators, lines of boats, well, I would say almost a mile long on both sides.
Yeah, there's only one side on the tie-up.
Yes.
But there will be 3 rows at least. There were 3 rows last year. This is the 2nd year we've done it here. Last year there was all kinds of to-do about it, lots of complaining. This year there's been 0 negativity, and I think because last year went so smooth.
Very smooth. And this area is just ideal, number one, for safety aspects for the racers, for the spectators. It's a very controlled environment. When everybody's leaving, we're not funneling down one main channel.
So as you're watching this, again, behind us is the Grand Glaize Bridge, and in front of us is the actual race course. So to my left is the start, to my right is the finish line, and we're probably sitting at about the 30-yard line right now towards the start line. What time do you get out here on Saturday and Sunday?
The first crew will probably be out on the water at 6 a.m., making sure the course is prepped, checking for safety inspections, making sure that the diagram that you've attached to this shows that all the buoys are in place to make sure everyone's being safe.
For those of you that don't know, Justin Martin is the one and has been in charge of setting out the buoys and setting up all the markers throughout the course. So do you guys participate in that, or is that all him and you're just kind of helping out?
Throughout the year, Justin is in constant contact with us, seeing how they can improve the safety, how we can assist in the safety of the operations, and we have a really good working relationship with Justin, and he's done great over the past couple of years, just making sure that everything's in line. So throughout the year, we probably meet 3-4 times to make sure that everybody's up to speed on the same thing.
So now as we talk about this new location, newish location, it's the 2nd year. A lot of people have asked last year, well, is this where it's going to stay? I think they just thought, well, now all of a sudden this can become a moving target. And I think the goal is that this will probably be a long-term target, just like it was at Captain Ron's for almost 20 years. I think it's going to stay here for the foreseeable future, if not forever, because of the central location. But one of the greatest aspects of this location is the lack of no wake on the main channel.
Correct.
Which was a big pain in the ass on the previous at Ron's.
100%. Everybody was leaving and they could only go one way. And here, if they need to go upstream, they go upstream. If they go downstream, they go downstream. And you do have the no wake area as a buffer for people to start making those decisions ahead of time.
The typical no wake. The no wake we're all accustomed to.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's really simple. And in fact, I think that compared to when you went to Ron's, you basically were making a commitment to be there all day.
Oh, absolutely.
And not everybody is that die-hard. I mean, I am. I was there all day. But if you are not a die-hard, you just want to come in and check it out for a few hours, this is a prime location for that, because you can get in and out. Now, the tie-up could be a little challenging, of course, and I want to talk about that. But because of the location, you now have the ability to get in and out, or just kind of, it reminded me of the Gauntlet, the old Party Cove days, right? And you can just run through, or you can just go sit down at the finish line by yourself, untied up, maybe throw your own anchor out and kind of get a glimpse of it and not be tied to the races the entire day.
Absolutely. And I think a big thing that we're stressing this year is mitigate your anchor lines. Know your anchor lines. I shouldn't say every year. I'd say last year we had a lot of problems. People, anchor lines getting snagged, anchor lines getting stuck, wrapped around other people's anchors. So I think that is a big thing this year, that if people pay a little bit closer attention and keep those anchor lines directly in front of them, spaced out appropriately, it's going to benefit a lot.
Let's talk about that. First things first, I have my recommendation, but I want to ask yours. If somebody is here, either A, they've been here before, or this is their first time here, and there are a lot of people that come from all over the country to this event. The first question I always get is, what time do I need to get there?
Last year we saw people as early as 5 a.m. starting to work their way in there. I guess it depends on how good a seat you want.
Good answer. In other words, if you want to be center cut, which there will be some barges that will be in the center, and then you tie off there. Now I will say that those barges are sponsors, usually boat dealers, and they are going to give preference to their customers. Don't expect to pull up to the barge, tie up. They're not going to let you unless you're one of their customers. So you're going to have to get just outside of that.
Yeah.
Right? I think the answer to the question, now I know start is pushed back a little bit this year. It's going to be 9 o'clock is the start of the races. The live broadcast will start at 8:30. And then the runs, like the Star Spangled Banner, there's going to be a flyover, there's going to be a Lieutenant Governor run, is going to be around 8:55. Don't get here at that time. In my personal opinion, I'd say be here and be tied up by 7:30.
I agree. I think that's an appropriate time.
And if you want to assure you have an incredible location, probably 7 or 6, 6:30 or 7.
Or the night before.
That's bold. But if you got the boat for it,
yeah,
sure,
if you got the time and the energy, that's a full day.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the weather forecast yet, because at the time of this recording, I haven't looked at it because it's a little too far out. But the time that you're watching this, we will know exactly what the weather's going to be. And hopefully it's as nice as last year. Now, if you're coming here, what kind of safety measures would you tell somebody to take? Because everybody's converging on the same spot.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is keep your spacing. Know who you're tying up to. Talk to the person. Try to understand what they want, what you want. That way we're not damaging other people's property. And then keep an eye on your passengers. Know how many people are in your group. If you're going to be swimming around all day, do a head count every once in a while. Make sure. Kids, put them in a life jacket. Adults, put them in life jackets. Float around, enjoy yourself. You're not coming here to do an exercise, so might as well put the life jacket on, right?
Yeah. Leah did say that. She said, make sure everybody knows who's coming. Make sure you have a plentiful amount of floating devices.
Yes.
Whether that is a life jacket, whether it's noodles, whether it's the floaties you sit in, anything. You can roll out your mats, because you're gonna be here all day if you're in the tie-up. If it's hot, you're gonna wanna be in the water, and you're not gonna wanna be treading water. So make sure you've got plenty of floats.
And water. Bring the water. If it's gonna be hot like it's been these past couple of weeks, you're gonna go through the water a lot quicker than you think.
So 1 water for every beer, is that what we're saying? You can't say that, although I'm just saying. That would be a bold advice, because I doubt anybody's going to do that. But listen, if you're here and you crack your first beer at 7:30 a.m., just be smart about it.
Absolutely.
And if you're pulling out of here at 5 o'clock, it's also chaos, which is a great question for Water Patrol, because where are you guys going to be stationed at 5 o'clock or the afternoon when all these boats tear out of here? Are you guys just kind of like, it's kind of like when people pull out of a bar and they say the cops are just waiting for us there?
There's officers that are assigned to the detail as a whole. So there's going to be a group of Water Patrol troopers kind of going back and forth, just making sure, checking people, making sure they're okay. And when I say checking people, I mean if an anchor's snagged or if they need help with something. The rest of the troopers are going to be responding to calls throughout the lake. So they may be close. It could be up at the 40, could be down at the 1. Just kind of depends on those guys on what's going on.
So it's probably more important than ever to understand basic rules of boating, so that when you pull out of here, you don't have fenders hanging all over the place, you don't have your orange flag up, you don't have people walking about, you do have life jackets on the ready, like all of those things.
Yes.
Are you guys looking for drunks?
Absolutely. And we will continue to look for that, because every year, not just on this weekend, but every year we have those accidents that are alcohol related, and we'd like to try to avoid that at all costs.
How bad was it last year? Or good?
It was great. We had very minimal problems. I can't recall any major incidents.
Really? That's great. Everybody remembers the infamous video of the boat, and they're driving and he hits a wake and everybody just goes crashing down.
Yeah.
That was after the shootout.
Really?
I'm pretty sure that was after because remember how it used to be at the end of Captain Ron's? Everybody would get out and then they would just tear around that corner and there was just massive wake everywhere, and he hit a wake and all of his people went, you've already seen the B-roll now. That's what you want to avoid.
That's a sign of, I want to be a professional boat driver, but probably not in the right equipment.
Well, and I can imagine, because you've been sitting here watching boats fly by. You're going to be amped up. You're probably going to be juiced up, if you know what I mean. And so just try to control that urge.
Wait.
It's until Sunday, Monday.
Rethink your decisions. Go to bed at night, and then think about if you still want to drive like you're a powerboat racer.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was at the shootout. That was after a shootout. Yeah. If I'm wrong, somebody will definitely correct me.
They'll tell you in the comments.
I feel like we've covered pretty much everything that we can cover. What have I forgot?
Buffer buoys. The buoys between the race course and the spectator line. So those buffer buoys to create a buffer between the race line itself and the crowd. And every year we get somebody that wants to tie up to it, and it pulls that buoy out of place. So don't be tying up to them.
Tie up. What color are those buoys? Are those, you've got on the map, you've got the no wakes, you've got the red course buoys, you've got the green spectator buoys, probably that one.
Yep.
So don't tie up to any buoys for that matter.
No.
And obviously you guys will be here policing that.
Yep.
Literally, Justin and his crew, there will be a ton of volunteers out here policing that. There's really no rule. I guess I will mention the old pontoon wants to tie up next to a fiberglass, wants to tie up to a cruiser, and everybody's like, oh, get away from me. Like, it's a free-for-all.
It is. But that does bring up a good point. If you're in a cruiser and you're running a generator, be aware of your exhaust coming out. Where that's going. Is it hitting the boat next to you? Is it filling the cabin of the boat next to you? We see that occasionally. We have those issues. Let's try to prevent that. Be aware of it.
Excellent. Well, I couldn't be more excited for Shootout Week, Shootout races specifically. It's going to be incredible this year, and I will say this. If you're not familiar with the actual Shootout races, or even if you are, you know that in the past there's various downtime. There won't be this year. They're going to be running in between. They're going to be doing the Thundercats. They're going to be doing some jet ski. They're going to be doing some head-to-heads. The shootout is growing and it's evolving and it's getting better every year. Going to be excited for this. We're not going to probably have Tirana. Freedom One's not going to be here. I know that sucks. Nothing we can do about it. But there's still going to be plenty of boats going over 200 miles an hour. American Ethanol is going to make a run at 230. And so we'll see what they're capable of doing. And I hear there might be a surprise boat or two. So we'll see what we have in store and be safe.
It's going to be a blast.
All right, now let's get to the fun part. Let's get to the fun part here. So we're going to respond to some comments, questions, and whatnot. We're going to kick you right, and then you know what's just kick this thing right off. Campus cops of the lake. I think I responded to that and said better than mall cops.
You did. I read that comment.
What do you have to say to that?
I guess maybe he's referring to the amount of fraternities that we get down here, bachelor parties or something like that. I'm going to try to not take it in a negative manner. Listen, we're out here. We have a job to do. Our job is to keep people safe, and I understand that not everybody agrees with our policing, but we have one objective, and that's to make sure everybody goes home safe at night.
I like that you have a thick skin. Not a lot of people in your position could do this. Okay, let's get on to, we had a lot of comments on the boat size video, so we're going to go through some of those. We're going to just do one at a time here. So the first one is, I feel like the restriction should be 40 foot. We're talking about boat size solely because it's actually pretty funny. Solely because I'd really like to get a good deal on a 42-foot MTI someone can't use there anymore. The downside to that is, sir, that if we put a restriction like that, pretty much every lake in the country would probably have a restriction like that. You're going to be basically relegated to the ocean or one of the Great Lakes.
Yep.
That's never going to happen.
No.
By the way. Okay, moving on. Well, actually, you know what? Let me ask you about that before we move on. Do you think they ever will put a restriction on boat size, or you think, like we talked about in the previous video, that it's going to stay dock size, which will create an effective restriction?
My best guess would be it's just going to maintain the dock permits. Whatever the dock permits allow, and once again, that's an Ameren thing. I mean, if legislation steps in, that's up to the legislators at that point, but I think at this point, it's a private lake.
Okay. Moving on, we got a bunch of these comments, similar comments. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm not sure if he's talking about me or you here. So
it was definitely you. It wasn't me.
There's a guy that has a 68-foot boat. And now let me be clear in responding to this and the other comments. We didn't say they don't exist. We said that there's grandfathered in boats, there's grandfathered in docks, but going forward, they're not permitting any docks that would allow for a boat that can stick out more than 2 feet. Therefore, it's an effective restriction of 60 foot going forward.
Correct.
How many boats do you think there are out here that are greater than 60 foot, if you had to guess? Not including the celebration cruisers, not including the commercial stuff.
I would say there's close to 100.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I would say nowadays we're seeing a lot more. That 55 to 60 foot is almost the common thing.
Now, when you say 100, are you talking greater than 60 or 55 plus?
I would say 55 plus.
Man, that's going to get a bunch of people riled up. I mean, when you think about that, when you come from other lakes that they have restrictions or just not big boats, you know,
Yep.
That'll piss a lot of people off. Okay, then that leads us into the next one where this fine follower, we won't name names, we won't show names, just to preserve privacy. You'll know if it was you. 60 foot is still too big. We don't disagree. Between the wakeboard boats, which got a lot of people riled up, and these big size boat waves, they're destroying boat docks, seawalls, natural shorelines. We don't disagree. That's all true. And they need to stop, and this is what I really want to go to, and they need to stop adding more condominiums, which adds more tourists, and traffic, which means overcrowding. At some point, enough needs to be enough.
Well, to answer my opinion on this, 60 foot is still too big. Yep, I couldn't agree more. I'm in a 30-foot boat patrolling this water. You know, I never thought 30 foot would be maybe not big enough.
Yeah.
When it comes to the wakeboard boats and it comes to waves, look at the celebration. What kind of wake does it put off? When we talk about the big boats, we got to talk about how they're being driven and how they're being operated. If you look at the celebration, it does not put off a wake. Yet they're not traveling at 30 knots. They're cruising down the lake. So I think you have to put into perspective how close they're operating to a dock, how much the bow is up in the air, and how much tabs, even what their availability is to get that boat down.
Which is interesting that you bring that up, because the next comment talks about that. And this follower, and I want to get back to the condominiums, but since you brought it up, I want to stay on this. This person said, I don't hear any complaining about celebration because of how they are driving. Now, this person also said at the end of their comment, you can start handing out fines for people who are plowing and damaging everyone's docks and seawalls. And they say, stop passing the buck. That's an interesting idea. I don't think it'll ever pass, but that's actually a pretty good idea.
You know, you got to look at the aspect of it is the criminal intent. And that's what I try to explain to people. Everyone's like, well, it's property damage. Okay, is that operator knowingly intending on creating damage to that dock?
Yeah. Are they driving by saying, haha, I got
yeah,
another
you know
one.
what, I got that dock today.
Yeah.
They're not. They're just operating down the lake. So proving that criminal intent is a whole different ballgame. So you have to put into account why.
Yeah. So in other words, you're not wrong. You're not wrong that 60 foot might be too big. I mean, first of all, that's an opinion. There's some people that would disagree. I personally love the freedom. Is it too big? Probably. But the beauty of this lake, and going back to the person's comment about there's too many condominiums, there's too many tourists, and I'm starting to comment this more often, my response is there's a lot of lakes in Missouri that are core lakes. Actually, most of them are. In fact, all the surrounding states, most of them are core lakes. And my point in saying that is, you've got options. Stop complaining about what this lake has become, because that's what makes this lake so amazing.
Correct.
There's a lot of people that are here solely because they can have a 50-foot MTI with 500 motors on it, or a cat going 120 miles an hour, or a Black Thunder, you name it, go down the list, right? Or a Tri-Tune with twin 500s, as I was on earlier today. Like, it's just nuts, but that's also what makes it awesome, and you have a choice. And I don't mean that in a mean way or a negative way, but like, you complain about it, just go down to Table Rock, go to Mark Twain.
There's other parts of this lake that
Where we are right now.
yeah, I mean, it's quiet, it's peaceful.
Yeah.
You can come down here on a Saturday, you can go all the way up to the 8 of the Glaize, you can go up to the 50, and you're not going to see the kind of traffic that you see at the 17 or the 16.
I get it. You were here in 1985 on the 25-mile marker, and you could get around on a 30-foot boat. Sorry, it's not 1985
No,
anymore.
it's grown.
Correct. We'll leave that alone. But, you know, hey, hopefully it stirs it a little bit more. I do love this comment, and I want to bring it up just because I wholeheartedly agree with them. This person says, I agree, they are ocean boats. Okay, yes, we all agree. But they say, but please watch out for the little guys and watch your wakes and your speed. That way we can all enjoy the lake. That is a positive comment. Thank you for that comment, because that's the point. Like, why can't we all just get along?
100%.
Why can't I be out here in a dinghy with the 60-footer? And I agree with this person. And this is what I would say to the 60-footer. Don't act like you can do whatever you want. Just because you're bigger doesn't mean you shouldn't be paying attention to what's around you. And if you're coming down the lake and you see somebody in a 25-foot V-hole that's probably going to get hammered by you, throttle down.
Come down, pay attention. Courtesy.
Yeah.
Be courteous of other boaters.
I love that message. I think we need that. I think that needs to be our message going forward. We're not going to get rid of the boats, but let's shift how we drive them.
I couldn't agree more with that statement. With the courtesy, you know, even for us, ever since we posted that video about when you see a patrol boat running lights and sirens and you're in that 60-foot boat, slow down for us so we don't have to jump that wake, because it hurts every time. Last weekend, I was running to an emergency call, and sure enough, I was coming up behind a cruiser. He throttled down, gave me a tiny little wake to go over. I'm like, hey,
That's awesome.
It's working. That's courtesy.
They watched the video.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to move on from the big boats. The last comment I will share, which I love this comment because this person it's true. The comment was, this lake is known for big boats. Skip on down to the next lake if you don't like it. Now, that's being a little blunt, and I'm trying not to be a jerk about it, but he or she is right.
We want everybody to come out here and have fun and enjoy the lake. And I wouldn't even say skip on down. I would say look at different portions of the lake.
Move up to the 50-mile marker and you'll have a whole different experience.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, let's move on to some comments about ticketing. All right, this is going to be good. First one is actually, I guess they know more than you do. They have performance-based reviews, and it is about the number of tickets / revenue they generate. They just use different language. Cops lie. 100. Dylan, are you lying to us?
No, I can tell you this right now. As for this summer, my goal has not been to write tickets, and I've said it 100 times over. Statistically proving that if I arrest somebody for BWI, yeah, they get a ticket for BWI. But 99% of my stops this year are me communicating with people of violations that they didn't even know they were committing.
Yeah.
And to say we lie about that stuff and it's a revenue generator, you might look at the statute because statute states that all water fines are set at $25 besides certain misdemeanor offenses.
Which you've mentioned that before.
Yes.
So yeah, if it's about revenue, it would be $2,500.
Yeah, because I can tell you it's $600 to fill up this boat, so we're losing revenue real quick at that point.
Well, why is it that you think everybody's a know-it-all when it comes to this kind of stuff and thinks that you're lying?
I think they believe that when we get in front of the camera, we're telling people what they want to hear. I've told nobody any lies about anything. It's nothing but facts and what we experience out here. And we're going to have people that don't agree with our tactics or the way we do things, but I don't get to make the laws. I get paid to enforce the laws.
Yeah. And more than anything, it's safety that you're after.
100%.
People just need to understand that and actually embrace that and stop looking at it from a cup half empty standpoint.
Yeah.
That they're out to get you.
Yeah.
The next one, he doesn't get promotions and pay raises for educating people. So you get promotions. What he's suggesting is you get promotions and pay raises by dishing out tickets.
That's kind of a slap in the face, in my opinion, because if that was the case, I'm going to be stuck here for a long time. I'm going to be here for a long time. My goal isn't to go out and write tickets every day. It's simply to educate the public. I love doing these videos. I don't do these videos because I want a pat on the back. I do them so people know, so I don't have to work as hard. I can go, you know what, those videos got out to people. People understand that they have to have those life jackets on. They have to have the proper equipment. That's our goal here. It's to educate the public.
It's people just seem to have a conception, I guess it is a misconception, that all cops are always kind of like in a bad mood and are taking out their bad mood on just humans living out their day.
Well, the only thing I would say to that is we're allowed to have bad days. We experience stuff. We experience the trauma stuff. You never know what that cop just came from. You know, is he angry because you don't have a life jacket on a kid because they just worked a fatality incident? You know, what is the underlying aspect of it? Now, we focus really strongly at the patrol is courtesy, integrity, honesty, respect. Pushing those values out there so people understand that we're human too, and we're going to give everybody the utmost respect until otherwise needed.
Yeah. Next one. I was stopped 3 times in one season for nothing other than a safety check by the Lake Patrol. He is absolutely incorrect. They do it all the time. I
would love to know when. I would love to know where. And are they sure it's Lake Patrol? Because Coast Guard can do that. I can't. That's a violation of the Fourth Amendment right.
So on that point, which somebody else says Coast Guard is on the lake, they can stop for no reason. Or I don't know if this is a question. They didn't put a question mark. Can they stop for no reason? So Coast Guard, Water Patrol, different entities, different
100%.
rules. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so we're looking at state statute. They're looking at the federal waterway aspect of things. So when you have a Coast Guard registered vessel, they're looking to make sure that you're within the federal guidelines of that boat. Now they have, if you watch them board a boat, they have a huge checklist that they go through. I'm looking at state statute. I can't enforce federal law.
And this, another comment, they do stop people for nothing, constantly in all caps. Again, maybe they're talking about Coast Guard here. What does a Coast Guard boat look like versus the Water Patrol boat?
The Coast Guard boat's going to be orange instead of gray.
I don't think I've ever seen them.
Yeah, you'll see them actually for shootout. There'll be a couple of them down
I guess
here.
I would just assume they were here for just the shootout, though.
Yeah, they're going to be down.
But they're here all the time.
No.
Oh, they're not here all the time.
They're here when they're available to be here. Our boats have 1 driver, 1 officer on board normally. Coast Guard's going to have about 5 or 6.
I love this one, and this is purely just going to be kind of laughable, but we can just offer our thoughts on it. Considering the lawmakers from Jefferson City are the ones who can afford and own the big boats, they would say no. In other words, what he's talking about here, and I guess I'm going back to the big boats here. I thought this was funny, and I wanted to kind of put it towards the bottom, because what he's suggesting is the big boat owners are politicians. Politicians make the rules, therefore there will never be a rule with a restriction on size. What would you say to that one?
You know,
I'd like to ask Lieutenant
I
Governor.
can't say I've ever stopped a politician on this lake. I can honestly say, and 90% of the people are not locals that we're dealing with on a daily basis. So if they are a politician, I had no idea.
I wonder if Kehoe's got a place down here.
I don't know that.
And a 69-foot boat to go with it. I know the Lieutenant Governor does not, because I've interviewed him a few times. He just comes as a guest. I do know that there's another one. I interviewed him last year. I can't remember who it was, but he's got a place, a condo here. But I remember him telling me specifically, he only gets here once or twice a year because his politicians are so damn busy.
Oh,
And
nonstop.
so they're never here. So I don't know what to even say to that, but I will just leave that right there. I will share this one, and I will share the name Mr. Venomous. Thank you for always engaging. You do engage all the time with us, and this is probably actually serious comment, kind of partially funny. He's probably half kidding. Can we get you guys over here in front of the moorings at 10 a.m. on weekends to slow these stunades down? Only takes a few tickets, and they suddenly remember the 5-mile-per-hour zone. You familiar with the moorings?
Over at the moorings. Well, with that being noted, I will actually send out an email to everyone, see if we can get some extra enforcement over there. That's all it takes. That's all it takes.
Well, so now, when you say that's all it takes, what, to comment on one of these videos? Or what's the formal way to put in a request, not necessarily a complaint, a request like this?
Call Troop F headquarters, 573-751-1000. Tell them that you have a violation occurring where it's at.
Yep,
and
okay.
as long as we have an available trooper, and I want to stress on that too, is I want people to understand that we're trying to get to every call that we can, but we're only limited on the amount of people that we have. So we get a lot of the calls saying, hey, we haven't seen you. You know, I may have a 20-mile hike and 6-foot swells trying to get to your house, so it may take me an hour.
Yeah.
But I will do my best to enforce that.
In other words, by the time you get there, the violator's probably long gone.
It
But
happens all the time.
But your bigger point is that, and what Mr. Venomous did here is you just got action. And he's going to do this. I'm going to send him the screenshot of this so he can actually put it in.
Yep.
Now this video is going to get a ton of comments if people request it. You're going to have to patrol every square inch.
I'll look at the comments, and as I see them come in, I'll send out emails, see if we can't get extra.
Like, let's not be jackwagons here. Let's be legitimate here. No, actually, the jackwagons entertain me. But if you have a legitimate one, yeah, put it in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Okay, we've just got a couple more. Have you ever been on a pontoon swamped by a wake from a big boat that doesn't care how fast or how large the wake they leave behind? It's very scary, especially with little ones with you. I'm going to stop it right there. They say totally unnecessary, etc. You're not wrong. However, and I wanted to comment on this one because I am a pontoon tri-toon owner, and in my first year or so of driving it, I learned my lesson the hard way. And by lesson, I mean I used to slow down for the wake.
And you drove right under it.
You slow down, you go up, you go down, water goes right over the top.
Yep.
Biggest mistake you can make.
Yeah.
And now that I've learned how to manage it, how to navigate them, how to kind of get out and you don't want to go right into the immediate wake right behind the boat. Get out a little bit to where you can get the wake to dissipate a little bit. It's still going to be big, but hit it at 25, 30 miles an hour, and you'll bump, 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 and you'll go right over the top.
Stay on top of the wave.
45 degree is the right, yep. Just wanted to mention that. I know most boaters know this, but for the person that commented this, maybe that's something you learned. If you didn't know this, if you're a renter, that's how you handle it in a pontoon, because most rental boats are pontoons, and they actually handle it really well.
Yeah, and weight distribution. That's one of the most important parts about it. A tri-toon. If you're overloading the front of the boat and you're trying to get over these wakes, that motor doesn't weigh enough to offset all the people in the front of the boat.
Yeah, good comment. Thank you for commenting that. This is a long one. I'm just going to give you a piece of it. My gripe is mostly with the countless people zigzagging back and forth while pulling tubes. And I want to share this. They said, you mean to tell me I have to constantly make changes to my path to avoid potentially running over a 9-year-old because you zigzag with 6 other boats near you? I agree 1,000,000% with this one. And it is so common. People are just doing this, and it's like, dude, first of all, you're putting your kid at risk.
100%.
Second of all, like, what are you doing? So what is the right way to do this as a boater?
Well, I think the correct way to fix this is get out of the populated areas. Number one, if I'm pulling my kids on a tube, which my kids love to go tubing, I'm gonna make sure that I find an area where there's not much boat traffic. Because if one of them falls off because they're sore, tired, I wanna be able to get to them in a quick amount of time. Now, as the operator pulling a tube, be aware of who's around you. When you're swinging that tube out by zigzagging, you're extending 100 feet to your port or starboard side every time.
So the best advice is multifold. And when you say stay off the populated areas, like this happens all the time in the Big Niagara.
Yeah.
But out on the channel, like, so try to get into little nooks, coves, stay in those areas and stay far off to the right or left side?
Absolutely. It's going to be the safest no matter what, because that big boat coming around a corner on the main channel at 100 miles an hour probably didn't know that you were pulling a tuber. And by the time you get that orange flag out, he's already made so much ground.
Yeah. All right, stay out of the main channel. And if legitimately the main channel, you're kind of half crazy. Tubing on anything from the dam all the way to, I would say, like Captain Ron's hurricane deck.
I would agree. I mean, you're going to have a concussion.
You don't love your kids.
You don't love your kids, says Jack, the cameraman. There's a few dads out there that are probably giggling. So anything more to comment on that? I mean, just if you're on the main channel from the dam to hurricane deck.
You got to be aware. Everything that we've talked about so far, being aware of your surroundings. If you're going to try that, it's a lot of the rentals that we see out in the main channel tubing. And then we'll stop them for a violation and talk to them. They're like, well, where should we go? Ask somebody. Ask these dock attendants. Ask somebody at a restaurant, hey, where's a good tubing cove? Because the locals around here know all the hidden gems.
Keep your kids safe, and the adults, whoever's tubing. Last question, because I don't know if this is true or not, but I have to ask you. This guy actually says, I have to agree with what the officer said, and we're talking about large boats again. He says, except very large boats are indirectly responsible for so many injuries, property damage, and a bad reputation to the lake. I would agree on, obviously, property damage. We've addressed that. I would agree on bad reputation. I wouldn't disagree with that. But indirectly for so many injuries. Do you think that's true?
Well, I think you have to account if you're talking about jet skis jumping the wakes and people getting hurt. I can't blame the big boat there.
Okay.
I have to look at the jet ski operator and say, well, why were we approaching that so fast? It's like driving a car. When the speed limit's 55 and you do 65 around a corner and the car rolls, is it the speed limit's fault or is it the operator's fault? And especially when we're looking at injury aspects, we do get all the time person impacts watercraft. That's classification for boat crashes. And that's because an operator hit a wake too fast, didn't hit it right, and somebody within the vessel became injured.
Yeah. And so in other words, the comment was probably more referencing that, or somebody maybe on a pontoon, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Let's wrap this thing up. I didn't include this comment because it just happened the other day. Somebody commented and said, this officer, something to the effect of knows very little, and the person interviewing him doesn't know any more than he did. So he really took a shot at both of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, thanks for your engagement. That's all I can say to you. We're doing the best that we can.
We got a view.
I will say this, I don't pay Dylan to do this with me. I don't get paid to do this. I'm self-funded. I get some pocket change from YouTube, some pocket change from the social channels on my videos. I can promise you, it's not buying me a Lamborghini. It's not even buying me a go-kart, for that matter. Maybe some groceries. But we do this for the sake of enriching the people that spend their time here at the Lake of the Ozarks, to make it a safer place. Because you're right, it does get a bad rap as a result of it. But we think we can do a small part to educate you all so that you can have a better time, a safer time, and hopefully just make this whole overall experience better for everyone.
Yep. And I volunteer my time to do this. Obviously, the patrol pays me, but I don't do this job for the paycheck. Obviously, you don't get into law enforcement hoping to buy a Lamborghini. The thing that we're doing is we're trying to educate. And yes, I don't know everything. And I've always said, since I became a cop, the minute I know everything is the minute I need to get out of this career. What I need to do is make sure that I'm within the law, making sure everybody else is operating safely and protecting people. That's why we're out here. For them to say, he doesn't know anything, I know a little bit, but
you could say that about me. Yeah. I don't know much. I'm just out here. I'm just a lake lover who just wants to share this lake with more people, which I know some people don't like me for doing that. But listen, I think this is the greatest place in America. It's definitely the greatest lake on the planet, in my opinion. And I love it here. I love living here, and I'm not leaving here. And so let's just try to make it better for everybody.
Absolutely.
I love it, dude. Well, I think the next time we do this, we might be out on the river on a jet boat. We're gonna keep doing these, keep the comments, engagement coming. The one thing you can do is share these videos with more people, so more people can learn about this. Obviously, enhance everyone's experience. If everybody can learn, so please share this. And you know what? For those of you that are thankful for this guy like I am, tell him that in the comments. He's reading them. We've established that, and most of them are fairly negative. So if you want to support Dylan and other officers like this, let them know about it. Give them your gratitude in the comments, because, well, whether you do it or don't, we're going to keep doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate it.